She held him down through prison, protected his name, raised his kids, and in return, he said, "I don't know if I'd do the same for her." This one moment shattered Yandy Smith and maybe their whole marriage. "I will always have love, but I refuse to keep pouring into a cup that refuses to pour back." With that one sentence, Yandy closed the chapter, gracefully, firmly, and powerfully. The internet rallied around her once more. Women from every corner of the world flooded her comments with messages like, "Sis, you're the blueprint. You chose you, that's the real win. And healing looks good on you." This wasn't just the end of a relationship, was the beginning of a lesson. A lesson in self-worth, in setting boundaries, in holding others accountable, and in recognizing when to walk away from a table where love is no longer being served. Mendeecees may have lost a loyal, powerful woman, but Yandy, she gained something far more valuable, herself. And that, without question, is the most pointy. Smith just shattered the illusion of her marriage with Mendeecees Harris, not on a TV set, but in a raw, behind-the-scenes moment that felt anything but scripted. With the sharp line, "I am not your PR team," she exposed the emotional cracks in what many once saw as an unshakable bond. This was not reality TV drama. It was a real-life reckoning, and the cameras captured far more than they ever intended. What finally pushed Yandy to speak out, after years of silence? That truth might completely flip what fans thought they knew about their relationship. Welcome back to the channel that strips away the gloss of reality TV and uncovers the truth. Beneath today, we are diving into one of Season 13's most explosive revelations from Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta. Once seen as the gold standard of ride or die love, Yandy and Mendeecees now find themselves at a breaking point. Their relationship cracking under the weight of emotional distance, silent frustrations, and what Yandy now calls one's loyalty. After staying quiet for so long, Yandy is finally speaking her truth, and, this time, the world is listening. In a recent clip that lit up the internet and shook the love and hip-hop community, Yandy Smith delivered a line that cut deep. "I am not your PR team." That single sentence cracked open years of suppressed emotions and long-held secrets. But what really set off this emotional eruption? Was it the sting of betrayal, the weariness of constant sacrifice, or the painful realization that she had been bearing the weight of their image alone? We are about to dissect the defining moments, uncover the hidden truths, and examine the raw, unseen footage that has fans everywhere buzzing. From tense prison visits to loyalty being put to the test, from humiliating public moments to deafening silence on social media. This narrative runs deeper than anyone imagined. Buckle up, because as we peel back the layers, you just might start to see the Harris marriage in a whole new light. For years, Yandy and Mendeecees projected the image of a love story many admired until now. From glamorous Instagram snapshots to tear-filled reunion episodes, Yandy and Mendeecees painted a picture of unshakable love. Throughout Mendeecees' prison sentence, Yandy held everything together, managing businesses, parenting alone, and keeping the family afloat with grace and grit. To fans, she became the gold standard of devotion, showing up for him over and over, even when no cameras were around. But beneath the polished surface, the strain began to show. The signs were quiet but telling: moments where her smile seemed forced, interviews where she paused before calling Mendeecees truly supportive. Then came the turning point that many still talk about, the 2021 VH1 Couples Retreat, where Mendeecees was asked a direct question: would he have done for Yandy what she did for him? The hesitation in his answer revealed more than words ever could when Mendeecees responded with, "I don't know." It sent shockwaves across the internet and may have shattered something deep within Yandy's heart. Her face said what her lips did not. The shift in her expression was instant, and though she held her composure in public, those closest to the couple revealed that his words lingered with her for years. That single moment planted a painful question in Yandy's mind. Had she remained fiercely loyal to someone who might never return that same devotion? Quietly, that doubt took root, growing silently beneath the surface until it could no longer be ignored. And now, it has exploded into a raw, unscripted confrontation that has left fans stunned. This was not part of a love and hip-hop storyline. This was real, unfiltered, and heartbreakingly honest. It was unfiltered, intense, and charged with years of unspoken emotion. Though the confrontation took place off-camera, it quickly surfaced online through leaked audio and insider accounts. From the set, sources revealed that Yandy finally reached her breaking point after being asked to do yet another media appearance to cover for Mendeecees. This time following a controversial podcast where he reportedly overshared about his past relationships, subtly undermining their marriage in the process. Exhausted from constantly managing his public image, Yandy is said to have erupted. "I am not your PR team, Mendeecees. I'm your wife. I've spent years shielding your name. Who's been shielding mine?" The room reportedly fell into a stunned silence. This moment was no longer about media strategy, was about emotional burnout, about a woman who had stood fiercely in the line of fire for her husband, facing critics, courtrooms, and public judgment, now finally demanding that he show up for her with the same fire, both in private and before the world. Let's be honest, this moment was not an isolated outburst. For years, Yandy had been silently carrying the weight of someone else's battles, from standing tall during Mendeecees' prison sentence, to managing tension with his exes, to fielding criticism from family circles. She had become a full-time crisis handler. Her personal peace, her time, and even her brand were consistently placed on the line to preserve his public image. So, when she finally declared, "I am not your PR team," it was not about just one incident. It was a release built on years of emotional labor, years of feeling more like a manager than a wife, years of protecting his legacy while slowly losing pieces of her own identity. The internet erupted. Many praised her courage and vulnerability, while others asked the hard question, why now? Why did it take so long for her to say what so many had sensed for years? But let's be clear, this was not just an argument. It was an awakening. Beneath the polished glow of reality television, the flawless designer looks, and the viral social media moments, Yandy Smith had mastered one role better than any other: the appearance of unwavering loyalty. She smiled on cue during interviews, stood firm against online critics, and defended Mendeecees with unmatched intensity whenever his name was under fire. But what the audience never saw was the weight she carried once the lights dimmed. The long, sleepless nights haunted by unanswered calls, the public outrage she absorbed over choices that were never hers, the private breakdowns no one witnessed because, for far too long, Yandy equated love with silence, and loyalty with self-sacrifice. And now, that illusion has finally started to crack. Even during Mendeecees' incarceration, Yandy remained unshakable, bringing their children to visit, managing businesses, hosting family celebrations, and presenting herself as the ultimate ride-or-die partner. The world praised her strength, admired her loyalty, and dubbed her the blueprint for wife goals. But through all the admiration, no one paused to ask the most important question: who's supporting Yandy? According to those close to the couple, Yandy quietly began therapy in 2023, and it was during one especially vulnerable session that she reportedly confessed, "I've been loyal to the point of losing myself. I no longer know where Yandy ends, and Mendeecees begins." That admission struck a deep chord. This was not about infidelity, scandal, or disrespect. It was about erasure, the quiet fading of a woman's voice, dreams, and identity as she continually poured herself into someone else's life. Family members began to sense the shift too. Her once radiant energy, so full of spark, started to demand no one could ignore it anymore. WERF. All come back of all. Her peace. But 2025 marked a turning point. According to insiders, Yandy finally drew a line. For the first time in her love and hip-hop journey, she told producers she would no longer participate in any scenes involving Mendeecees' exes. It was not drama, it was a declaration. A woman reclaiming control of her own story. She even turned down a high-paying love and hip-hop reunion special despite the tempting five-figure offer because no check was worth the toll on her mental health. According to a close friend, Yandy made her stance clear: "I'm done being the punching bag. I've bent over backwards to blend families and keep the peace. But peace that costs me my dignity, that's too expensive." This was no longer just about baby mama drama, it was about reclaiming her worth. Yandy began pouring back into herself, unapologetically. Spa days, girls' trips, empowerment events where men weren't even part of the conversation. And fans noticed the shift. Her social media transformed from loyal wife aesthetics to the glow of a woman healing, growing, and thriving, no longer seeking approval from a man or his ex. Yandy was writing a new chapter, and this time, the spotlight belonged solely to her. While Mendeecees continued to expect Yandy to be his publicist, his fixer, the peacemaker, and the glue holding everything together, few truly understood the emotional cost of that role. There's a difference between standing by your partner and constantly cleaning up the messes they leave behind the polished Instagram posts, the carefully edited moments on Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta, and the public image of unwavering loyalty. Yandy was quietly unraveling beneath the weight of responsibilities she never fully agreed to carry. This chapter of her life was no longer about cameras, clout, or applause. It was about survival. Surviving emotionally, spiritually, professionally. When Mendeecees was incarcerated years ago, Yandy didn't just hold it together, she rose higher. She built a business empire, nurtured their children, kept the household running, and still managed to protect his image with grace and dignity. But now, she was asking a vital question: who's protecting me? She wrote heartfelt letters, fielded media questions, spoke on public panels, and even offered comfort to Mendeecees' family, choosing time and time again to be his backbone when the weight was too much. But somewhere along the way, that loyalty began to feel less like love and more like expectation. Fans started noticing a shift in Yandy's tone during interviews and online posts. She was no longer filtering her truth. Subtle but sharp, her comments hinted at emotional exhaustion and the growing desire to no longer be taken for granted. So when she declared, "I'm not your PR team," it wasn't a dramatic soundbite, was the eruption of years of swallowed pain finally finding its voice. It was never just about press releases or public image. Yandy was confronting the imbalance in their dynamic. Because when a woman is forced to juggle her own burdens while constantly cleaning up after her partners, something inside her eventually breaks, and that moment, for Yandy, had arrived. "I will always have love, but I refuse to keep pouring into a cup that refuses to pour back." That one quiet sentence wasn't loud, but it echoed powerfully across timelines, podcasts, group chats, and hearts. With it, Yandy Smith Harris didn't just end a relationship, she reclaimed her narrative. Her tone wasn't sharp, nor vengeful. It was calm, certain, and whole. It was the sound of a woman who had spent years loving deeply, carrying emotional burdens silently, and constantly choosing others before herself, finally choosing to put herself first. Her words hit home for thousands, if not millions. Because this was never just about one marriage, one fight, or one viral moment. This was about the slow erosion of a woman's peace beneath the weight of someone else's expectations. Yandy's statement wasn't a jab, it was a declaration. She had poured everything she had: time, energy, love, patience into a man, into a relationship, into an image. And in return, when she needed the same effort, the same care, she was met with silence, deflection, or worse, dismissiveness. The world watched her stand by Mendeecees through his prison sentence, co-parenting, battles, family drama, and endless public scrutiny. She showed up not just for him, but for his image, his legacy, his peace. She nurtured his children, protected his name, and kept their brand alive while he was away. And still, when asked if he would have done the same if the roles were reversed, all he could muster was a vague, "I don't know." That hurt echoed beyond their household. It became a gut punch to women everywhere who had ever carried their relationship on their back, hoping one day their loyalty would be returned. What followed was a flood of support. Social media turned into a collective rally. Women from all walks of life poured into her comments. "You're the blueprint. You chose youth. That's the real win. Healing looks good on you." And they were right. This wasn't just a breakup. It wasn't drama. It was a breakthrough. A quiet, powerful moment where Yandy showed what it looks like to evolve, to wake up, and to walk away with dignity and tact. Because healing doesn't always look like a clapback. Sometimes it looks like setting boundaries. Sometimes it looks like declining a reunion special, even if the check has more zeros than your bank account has seen in months. Sometimes it's not answering the phone. Sometimes it's choosing silence over spectacle. Yandy could have gone online and exposed every detail. She could have responded with shade, receipts, and rage. But she didn't. She knew her silence would speak louder, and it did. It told the world, "I no longer need validation. I no longer need to prove my worth. I no longer need to beg to be protected." She had done that already. For years. Now she was done performing strengths, she was living it instead of lashing out. She poured inward. She refocused her energy on herself: spa days, girls' trips, peace-filled panels where men weren't the topic of discussion. Her brand began to shift. No longer just the image of a loyal wife, she was becoming the image of a healing woman. And in every image, every quote, every reappearance, her glow grew louder. This wasn't reinvention. It was return. A return to the Yandy who danced in Harlem streets, who mentored young girls, who built businesses from nothing but vision and grit. In a later podcast, when she finally did speak, it wasn't to bash Mendeecees, it wasn't to shame. She simply said, Sometimes the hardest thing about love is realizing when you've outgrown someone who didn't grow with you. That line pierced through the noise. Because growth without partnership becomes imbalance. Love without reciprocity becomes a burden. And staying in something that diminishes you slowly, day by day. Is not loyalty its self-neglect? Yandy's evolution is a lesson, a masterclass in self-worth and accountability. In recognizing when love becomes labor. It's a reminder that strength doesn't mean staying through anything. Sometimes strength is walking away. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Not with anger, but with truth. She didn't lose a man, she rediscovered herself. And in doing so, she gave other women permission to do the same. Mendeecees may have lost a powerful woman who had stood by him through storms most people would run from. But Yandy, she gained something far more valuable. She gained herself, her peace, her voice, her freedom, and that more than any comeback, any storyline, any TV moment is the most powerful transformation of all. This wasn't just her healing era, it was her homecoming. What followed left fans reeling. After all that Yandy had poured into their relationship, public devotion, private sacrifice, and unwavering emotional strength, many expected Mendeecees to respond with empathy, accountability, or at the very least, some sign of appreciation. But what happened next blindsided even their most devoted supporters. In a now-deleted live stream that quickly spread across social media, Mendeecees appeared casually chatting with friends, brushing off Yandy's frustrations like they were nothing. When someone brought up her now iconic "I'm not your PR team" statement, he laughed and said, "That's just Yandy being dramatic. She's always been like that. She knows what comes with this life." Wait, what? That moment sent shockwaves through the internet. Fans were furious. The dismissiveness, the smirk, the complete lack of accountability, it felt like a slap in the face to a woman who had carried so much for so long. For many, it was the final straw. Thousands of fans flooded the internet with outrage, posting comments like, "She held you down through prison and this is how you repay her." Others called it out bluntly. Mendeecees is acting like Yandy wasn't the reason anyone even remembered his name while he was away. He's emotionally unavailable and ungrateful. But the storm didn't end there. In a separate interview, Mendeecees was asked a pointed question. Would he have stood by Yandy if the roles had been reversed and she was the one behind bars? His response stunned everyone. "I don't know. That would have been tough. I can't say for sure." The internet imploded. Viewers could not comprehend how a man once fully supported during his darkest hour could admit so casually that he might not have returned that same level of loyalty. Yandy had given up years waiting, holding the family together, defending his name, building a legacy that included him, and now, with a few careless words, it felt like that loyalty had been undervalued. If not erased, Yandy didn't just stand beside Mendeecees, she built the very foundation he now stands on. She raised his children with love, shielded him from public backlash, maintained their brand's integrity, and ensured he always felt supported even when she was silently struggling. And after all of that, the most he could offer was a dismissive "I don't know." It wasn't just disappointing, it was devastating. For Yandy, for women everywhere who've carried the emotional weight of relationships, and for fans who had emotionally invested in what they believed was a story of enduring love. But instead of firing back with shade or dragging him through social media, Yandy chose something far more powerful. She reclaimed control of her own story. As Mendeecees' careless words made their rounds online, Yandy didn't rant. She didn't subtweet, she didn't unleash anger. She simply fell quiet. And in that silence, there was strength, a quiet storm that spoke louder than any caption ever could. But make no mistake, Yandy Smith Harris's silence was not surrender. It was strategy. Like so many resilient women before her, when betrayed by the very person she had poured her heart into, she did not crumble, she recalibrated. She turned inward, toward her purpose, her peace, and her own power. She began showing up alone, radiant, composed, and fully herself. No need for explanations, new performative posts, just presence. She doubled down on her activism, reignited her entrepreneurial spirit, launched fresh projects, and stepped boldly into more speaking roles. And for those truly watching, it became clear, Yandy was not just healing, she was transforming. Months later, during a podcast interview, she finally addressed it all, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. "Sometimes the hardest part about love," she said, "is recognizing when you've outgrown someone who never grew with you." It was calm, it was clear, and it was the closure she gave herself on her own terms.